Oh hi, a video tutorial now for Ashokan Farewell. Fantastic fiddle tune written by Jay Ungar in 1980. I think Jay and his wife used to have these annual get-togethers in the mountains in Ashokan, and this was the tune that they would end with and say farewell to. It was also the backdrop for Ken Burns' Civil War TV film. So I'm going to talk you through the transcription really. It helps if you have the transcription rather than doing it on just the tutorial, but I'll do my best to get us through it. Now, like all of these, you know, this style of playing really, what you've got to do is sort of make sure that you're aware of, you know, you see all the notes out there on the score, all the numbers if you're reading tablature, but it's really knowing which note, which group of notes represents which part really. You've obviously got a melody there, which is the fiddle tune, and you've got the harmony, which is the accompaniment. In this case it takes the form of arpeggios mainly, and you've got the bass line. So just having a general principle of making sure that the melody line gets projected above the remainder of the texture is a good standard to aim for really. So one of the first things you should do if you're not hugely familiar with the tune is to source some versions of it, you know, the original fiddle tune, and really get that tune in your head. Now, in my opinion, how you project the melody above the remainder of the texture isn't so much what you do with your fingers, it's just really having that, you know, the melody line in the forefront of your mind as you play it, and then that sort of encourages the tune to come out above everything else. If this was a vocal song with lyrics, I'd be encouraging you to sing the song internally, sing the lyrics in your head as you play along, and that way you just bring the lyrics out, bring the melody line out of the rest of the texture. So that's really important. If the sort of arpeggios are, you know, if each of the arpeggio notes is banged out at the same strength as the melody notes, the melody can get lost here and there. So it's important really that when you play this, and anything really, that you're aware of the tune. So for the first section, this is what you should be thinking about as you play, is this melody line. Ooh. So that's the tune, and you should consider that and get the tune in your head, and be aware of it as you play through the entire piece really, not just this piece but any piece. Okay, so you've got that upbeat there, that lead in, those two notes. So you've really got to get yourself in. So we're going to do the first 16 bars here first of all. So that's your opening position, your first shape that you need, the first chord shape you need on the first bar, you know, notwithstanding those two pickup notes, is that one. It's a sort of a partial bar on fret 7, first 3 strings, with your full finger on the high D there. The first note you need is also on the 10th fret. We're talking about the two pickup notes here, 10 and 9. So I'm going to kind of get that ready and start with an opening shape of, we're not playing the bottom 2 strings, but you've got the open D there, fret 7, fret 10 and fret 9, but you're partially barring for the chord that you're going to need after the 2 pickup notes. That rhythmic figure incidentally is referred to as a Scotch snap. It's just a semi-quaver followed by a dotty quaver. So the first note is barely there before the second note arrives. quite often you get that the other way around, dotted quaver followed by a semi-quaver, but this is the other way around, called a Scotch snap. Okay, so here's that first position, and I'm going straight into that barred D. Here we go. So that's what my left hand is doing for that position. The next couple of quavers that follows are just really arpeggio notes for movement. You know, you want something going on in the gaps really of the melody, but as I said, be aware of how you'd need to project the melody above those. Okay. So nice big fat bass note and a big fat high note as well, but with the arpeggio notes understated. I know I'm rambling on about that quite a lot, but that is quite important. Here we go. And then we've got the continuation of the melody, still in this position. Now I'm going to leave my bar in place. It's not really serving too much of a musical purpose, but you do get the overring of the notes supporting the continuation of the melody. So all done with that partial bar in position. Okay, after that I'm going down to this F sharp minor chord. Now it's quite a big jump really, a leap in position from 7th position down to 2nd. But you really just need to target that first finger on fret 2. That's all you need on the first quaver beat of that bar. You can kind of add there's one other finger you need, this 3rd finger on the F sharp on the D string. But you don't need that until the 2nd quaver beat, so you can add that. That's referred to as layering a chord. All right, you just get what you need for the first beat and then you add the rest of it as and when you need it. Okay. So it's quite, you know, the sort of tempo we're doing it at in the upper 70s. You know, I've put 76 to 80 on the score. You know, you could even take it a bit slower than that, but at that modest tempo, it's eminently possible to get down to that position there without any scurrying or untidiness really. All you need is that first finger barred, and you can add that afterwards. Here we go. And again, da da da, arpeggio notes. 3rd position, the chord is a G major, and I'm going to use fingers 2 and 3 like that because it's, you know, I find it's perfectly manageable to get the F sharp melody note using those 2 fingers. So that's my choice of fingering for that really. Okay, there's the high G. So I can get all those notes you see with the bass notes still ringing on, you know, with these open strings. So that's that. The next chord, so kind of in bar 4 now, is you can call it a G with an E in the bass, or you could call it an E minor 7, but that's your shape in 3rd position there. And again, la, da, da, da. There's your melody. So whatever notes in the arpeggio aren't those melody notes, you want to, as I say, underplay them a bit. So into 3rd position there. Next is the sort of D major harmony. Now, D can be, it can sometimes present a few problems when you're trying to play a melody over a D chord, because the only F sharp you've got in the chord is up at the top there, and sometimes that's where the melody is taking place, so you don't get the opportunity to identify the chord as being major by the presence of an F sharp. So really we've got to do the chord thus in order to be able to sort of shoehorn the F sharp note in there to provide the harmony that we want. That's the case here. The melody here is da da da. So I'm going to do that with the chord held, and I'm going to be playing something on the quaver beats between the melody. So that's the first 2 bits of it really, all done with that D position in place. After that I'm then going to, I get the F sharp in the top part, so I don't need to use that really, and I can get the open D there on that. So on the 3rd beat of bar 5, actually it is, on the 3rd beat of that, you're making a regular D chord. That is a little embellishment really. You can see there I've sort of slid that double stop up from the 2nd and 3rd frets to the 7th and the 5th. You don't have to do that really. If you prefer the 5 and the 7, that's the last quaver beat on the first line of the music there. You can kind of hold that until the first beat of bar 6. That's where it's due really, but I'm actually just pushing it forward a half a beat so I can get the slide in. So if I don't do that, it would sound like this. Sorry. So it's a tiny difference, but as I said, I'm just pushing that forward half a beat so I can embellish it and get that pretty slide in there. So into bar 6 now, using the 4th finger for that sort of wide stretch there. The melody is going right up there to fret 14 now. I'm not going to put anything beneath it really. I should still have the D ringing underneath it to provide some harmony. So when we get to that note, we can still hear the D ringing. Okay, bar 7 now. It's the harmony is sort of if this was a fiddle being accompanied by either piano or guitar, the accompanying instrument would be playing a G chord. So we're gonna keep the G and the B there. That's a G, that's a B. We're gonna keep that under the F sharp. This is bar 7. Because I'm considering the G to be the bass note here, I'm going to play it with my thumb. It doesn't, you could even play this, well, you can't play it with the plectrum I suppose because you need bass notes and melody notes together, but it has to be finger style. But you could do it all 3 fingers if you want, but I'm thinking of that G there at the start of bar 7 as being a bass note. So I'm kind of playing that with my thumb really. Is the next melody note. Sorry. And that's my chord there. It's an A7, it's a high position, first inversion A7. I mean, like all chord changes, you want to be sort of making that shape above the strings and dropping it on as one complete unit. It's kind of not an easy, it's a chord shape I've got used to over the years really. I use it quite a lot. So my fingers kind of gravitate towards it without too much of a problem, but it's not that common a shape and it does use all 4 fingers. So maybe practice that bit in isolation before you sort of integrate it into the piece. Here we go with bar 7. 4th finger, bring the 4th finger down and build the rest of the chord around it even. So that's my sort of imperfect cadence really, or half close if you want to call it that, at the sort of 8 bar stage. Well, that's ringing on. I've introduced that pitched harmonic there on the A. Again, it's just really to have something there for movement, otherwise there's a 2-beat gap there and at quite a slow tempo. Those gaps in the music are evident really, so it's nice to just put something in there for movement. If you're, if the pinched harmonic isn't something that you do or you want to do, then just the open A string will be perfectly fine. The note is an A either way. And then we've got the 10-9 a bit, which is what we started with. For the sort of second 8 bars of the phrase. Anyway, so there's that high position A chord. And then as the A note is ringing, I've then got to kind of get back to my 10 and 9. Using those fingers because that prepares me for the repeat of that. This is the same material. Now we go into a full close. Same material. And as I approach that, I've got the that cadence there. So that's like a D7 shape. We're on the middle beat of 13th bar 15, which is like a D7 shape in the, you know, you've got 9, 8, 9 of your frets. The chord after that, that's an A7 chord, but it's very much like the D7. If you just slide the D7 up but hold that back a fret, it's not a straight movement because you'd end up with a wrong chord, but you've just got to allow that to drop back 1 fret. So you've got 12, 10, 12. So 9, 8, 9, 10, 12, sorry, 12, 10, 12. Resolving on the D chord for your perfect cadence. So yeah, a lot of movement in this, and you're using the entire range of the fretboard. We're going up as high as fret 14. But to repeat, it's a nice manageable tempo. And apart from probably that one voicing of the A7 chord, they're not really massive chords which involve big stretches and things, or 4 fingers indeed, apart from that one. So again, that's the first, the A section, which I've marked on the score. Perfect cadence. Okay, the B section. On the score, again, I'll play the melody element of it first, so you know what it is that you need to be keeping in your head. So rather like knowing how the vocal line of a song goes, you've always got, if it's a song you know and like and you've known for some time, then you've kind of always got that in your head when you listen to the song as a whole, whether there's an orchestra with it or a piano or a band or whatever. You know, just do gain as much familiarity as you can with the melody line. Okay, so the B section now, which starts on the pickup. So we're on the 3rd line down of the music, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. It's the end of bar 16. There's your pickup, 7 and 8. If you watch the video, you'll see I use that top string. I don't really know why I did that. It makes more sense really to bear in mind the chord that you've got at the start of bar 17, which is that voicing of the D chord. So it makes more sense really to do the whole thing in 5th position, so 7, 8. There's your chord. Okay, it stays on a D chord here. This is another quite tough chord, but I wanted that da, 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 da. The bass note really needs to be an F sharp. So we're doing a first inversion D chord, that's with the F sharp in the bass. And the only way to do that really and get that high melody note was this inversion of it. So you're barred on fret 7 and you've got 2 frets above that and 3 frets above that there. Okay, there's your opening chord, the D, bar 17. So again, take the whole thing at a nice modest tempo so you've got time to move up to that position. And again, the other notes within that bar chord are just arpeggio notes, so repeat, understate them. Oops. There it is. There's a G chord. I'm using that as a bass there, which is a 4th string 5th fret G. But when I need to go up here, it's fine to lose that because you've actually got the same note as the open string. Here we go, bar 19. So I'm just letting my full finger take care of the melody there. So as I do that, you've got the G and the B ringing, so you've got harmony for it. Bar 20 here. It's all really done with that 5th position D major chord, fret 7, 7 and 5. And here's this bit of the melody. Da, da, da. So I'll talk you through the sort of harmony that I opted for here. There's the melody there, the F, it's on different strings, so be aware of what's what. Sorry. So you should get all those notes ringing into each other, campanella style. I opted for a suspension there. The chord is a G, but the chord before it was a D, and that contains an A note. So I've left it in the G chord there as a suspension. And again, you can hear a bit more dissonance there. We're on bar 22 here. Yeah, it clashes, but there's a little scale passage there going through all of that. So just to give it a bit of interest, you know, it doesn't mean anything, but you know, it's not part of the melody. I'm just really colouring the chords so as to get the little scale pattern in there for, you know, because I fancy doing it really, no other reason. A little bit of dissonance can sometimes be nice and stop something from being a bit overly sweet, you know. Okay. Bar 19. There it is. There's my G with the added 9th. And the chord there is an A, and again I'm using a 4/3 suspension. That's really what the chord is. It's arpeggiated, obviously. 1920, bar 22 here. That's really what you're doing. You're barring on fret 2. There's your suspension there. Resolve into that. So that passage again. So we got to that A sus4 down there. And you can see that under the 4th fret note there, if you're reading the tablature, I've suggested that you just keep that in position so it rings on, to provide harmony for the high note in the next bar there. 2 and 3. There it is. And a nice fat bass note there for the melody to rest on. Last bar of the page. It's that D chord again where I'm going up, only it goes to a different place this time. It goes to this this is sort of a minor thing. Now different versions have got different chords. There's some of them use a D7, some of them use a C. It depends on the version really. But I've chosen to harmonise it with that chord there. And if you watch the video, you'll notice it's on around about sort of 51 seconds, something like 50-51 seconds. I just effect a nice pause there. Again, that's only my own interpretation. Back to the melody now. Now at the end of bar 26, 5 to 7, whatever fingering you want is fine. You could tap, you could hammer on there first finger to fourth. Up to there, back to the D position which you know. Again, D major harmony. Despite what I've got on the score there, it might be a better idea really to, rather than to use that D position. I'm at the start of bar 29. How I played it and how it's written on the score is an open D, but again it suffers from not having the F sharp in the chord. So if you feel so inclined, you could use that sort of more full version of the D chord, 5th fret, 4th, 2nd and 3rd. Okay, about 26, 28, 29. Oops. That's all stuff that you did in the A section. What follows now is a repeat of the A section actually. I've referred to it as the C section on the score. It's the A section, but I've just brought the melody down an octave. As arrangers, that's one of the tools that we've got in our armoury really, is to just do a bit of octave displacement. A singer can offer different lyrics between the verses. I know this isn't a vocal song as such, but you know, instrumentalists have got to look at different ways to present the same material differently, and we can't do that by changing the words. So one thing we can do is change the change the octave, up an octave or down an octave. So in order to offer the A section, or variation of the A section, the C section is the same as it, but an octave below. Okay, so C section there, bar 32. I didn't indicate it on the score, but I should really have done a Scotch snap a la bar 1. So change your score if you would, or do it as written, but the notes are 2-2, which I'm going to do as a bar. So here's your melody now. So again, keep that in your head as you play through. So what happens now is that we've got the melody, and sometimes during this section the accompaniment is going to be above the melody line on higher strings. So it's even more important to project that melody. I mean, it's much easier to do really when the melody is on the high strings and you've got the accompaniment beneath it. But as I said, in certain places here, the melody is on the bass notes, so your accompanying notes, your harmony, is on the strings above it. So you've got to kind of keep those a bit quieter than the melody now. Here we go, bar 32 going into bar 33. There's your Scotch snap, your lead in. That's bar 33. I'm kind of doing it all with that that D chord. I need to hinge as you get to the open B string there on beat 3 of bar 33. I'm going to hinge it. That's a sort of where you keep everything in place, but instead of it barring, you just keep your fingertip where it is and lift the rest of the finger up to give you that open string. Again, F sharp. Again, all of that is done with the 2nd fret bar in position. Again, as you can see, the harmony is G major. Well, we know that it is. And again, so I think if you do those 2 bass notes of the G chord with fingers 2 and 1, it kind of keeps these fingers free for carrying that melody line. So, you know, if that's your normal position for G, it's kind of going to be a bit of a stretch to get that melody in. So do take some time to sort of read the fingering suggestions. They're not set in stone, you know, do your own fingering which you prefer and which suits you and so on, but you know, they're my suggestions. You know, as long as the melody can sustain with the chord that you're holding down, then any fingering is fine, obviously. But those are my suggestions written on there. F sharp. There's that G chord. Here's an example of where the melody is beneath the rest of the texture. There's the melody. And to harmonise that, I'm using the sort of 3 open strings, obviously, which make up an E minor triad. And again, melody on the bass, my D chord there is on the high strings. So, you know, allow your thumb to give plenty of weight to the bass notes as you hit them, because they form the melody line. So that's the melody now. This is the sort of high point of the melody, isn't it? If you remember, we had the F sharp up there in the A section, but we've got it there now. This is bar 38. G major 7 the chord. Easy enough. Again, I'm using fingers 2 and 1 for that position, so I can get the 3rd fret note easily with that finger. A. Again, so there's my A chord there, bar 40 this is. Da-da. So you might, again, you can see you've got that Scotch snap there on beat 3 of bar 40. So you might want to choose that point to convert to a bar chord. Same stuff. That's material we've already covered. So we get into that perfect cadence now at the end of the section. Again, I just want to talk about that D chord. I did this on the video. It's really what should be in there, so I made an error there, and I should really have made that that D chord on the end of the page there. This version of the D chord, so I've got the F sharp in it, so there's kind of a note missing out of that, which I'm a bit embarrassed about. That's what I should have done. So you can kind of hear that automatic descent as it resolves into the D chord. And as you can see there at the end of the score, you would play the B section again. The final two notes on the page is the lead into that. This is that bit. Etc. As you come out of that, you're going to just play the A section again. I put a tasteful rallentando in there at the end to, just to announce the ending. And there it is, ended on that D chord. So good luck with it. As I said, there is a written performance guide with the score. If you bought the score, you'll have a copy of that, obviously. And it mentions most of the things I've discussed in this video. But hopefully that helps. And as I said, really the way you should be approaching this or any other solo arrangement is to just be fully aware of what constitutes the melody and the bass and the harmony. It's all sort of three separate parts going through all of that, mostly. Have the tune in your head so you can project it as you play it. To repeat, that's not really in the fingers so much as in the head. So keep your knowledge of the melody at the forefront of your mind as you play through, and then it should project naturally. Okay, thank you.